Hi, friends, and welcome to the channel. This is a podcast where I share my insights. And today I want to talk to you about overcoming a chaotic existence. It took me a long time to understand the mechanics of effortless living. So this is not a 5 tips to having a slower paced life. This is not a pill form. You might consider this a seed for change within you. And I'm just going to sort of point you in the right direction. And I'll show you what I did. And hopefully you'll have the same success in overcoming a chaotic existence. Stick around. The reason why we experience a chaotic life is that the environments that we find ourselves a part of have totally outstripped this primitive machine called the body. And it is primitive. The body has evolved much slower than the technology and the world that we have created for ourselves. And I believe we're beginning to sense that the tempo of life has left us behind. And to make up for that, that's probably why you see a surge in artificial intelligence. The things we find ourselves in are moving too fast. And you may be noticing that you're involved in too much, and so the quality of your life seems really empty. That's a sign that you've neglected yourself in the simple structures of the 5 senses. And while I think it is very possible for us to be in a complex world, we must get back to the basics for training and fundamentals. Because we're not learning the fundamentals in school. Because I got out of higher education because the environment was way too complex, way too fast for any kind of real intellectual curiosity, creativity, and exploration, which is what I think education used to be. So I found myself unable to enjoy anything I was doing. I was just moving from one thing to the next, and I never could really soak it in. I could never really have enough time to experience my experiences. I had to learn new software before I really mastered the software I was working with. You know what I'm talking about? Like your company may be using a particular kind of software and you finally get the hang of it. And then they introduce this whole new system. And you got to learn a whole different thing. And so you never really get to learn anything. You kind of learn at it. Your experiences are kind of, sort of. You go to a nice restaurant, but you really don't taste your food, or you go to a concert and you really don't feel comfortable to sit there and listen. Or you go on a vacation and the whole thing is just nothing but frenetic activity. There's no real unwinding. So you may be sensing within the mind-body construct that you are wound up. And as much as I would love to say, watching one video like this will unwind you and you can enjoy your life now. So what we need to do, or what I have found to be very helpful, is to relate how I taught music to students who had a lot of anxiety. They were in environments where everything was high-paced. And they had to come to their... I taught the organ, which is a very complicated instrument to learn. One of the most complicated instruments in classical music. You have to play with both feet, both hands, several keyboards, all these stops, 3 lines of music, right hand, left hand pedal, all moving in a very complex way. And the brain cannot learn all that complexity if it's wound up. The only way the brain can really learn is if it's in a non-stress environment, if it's in a simple environment. In the same way that if you try to train a dog or a horse in the middle of the city, they'll never learn what to do. So if you have a high-strung dog, you don't go to the dog park to train them. You take them away from all the dogs, all the cars. You confine them to a simple area so that they can learn what part of the brain you want them to use, which is the calm and submissive state. The unwound version. Everybody wants an unwound version of a dog. You don't want a dog that's hyper and bouncing off the wall. And the only way to do this is to take them down to basics. So, if you have a chaotic life, you're going to need to take yourself down to the basics. That's all there is to it. Now, can you clear your schedule? Can you quit your job? Can you quit your family? No, you can't. So this is going to require you to find time in your day. And it's going to have to be in the morning. My journey to becoming unwound, if you will, I had to make an early morning routine. And you can design it however you want. If you're not a morning person, you may have to suck it up. You might. This is a time in the morning where you can get yourself ready to go into your complex environment. Journaling, meditation, just sipping on coffee, sitting on the deck. There must be time in the morning. If the first thing you do in the morning is get into your complex life, emails, texts, fighting with the kids, you begin the day in a battle scene. And a lot of people begin their days in battle scenes. And that simply winds us up, and we're wound up, and we get even more wound up, and then we get into traffic, and we get more wound up, and we get into bills and variables, and more winding, and it's a never-ending cycle. There's never a chance to truly unwind. So to start the process, I want you to devote 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. I do hours, but mine started off slow. Journaling is a very good way to get the muck out of the mind. You know, just put the pen on the paper and let it run. This is about every morning coming back to that space. Feeling the tension in your body and getting more of it out. So this is a practice. And what you'll find, which is really interesting, is that your mornings will grow. Your little retreat, your sanctuary, your holy. I just call it take time to be holy. And that is, we don't talk during that time. We observe our thoughts. If our thoughts are racing, we simply observe them. But we practice relaxing in a very simple environment. That's all it is. You're trying to tame yourself. I know that sounds weird, but we're so wound up like wild animals. The brain and the body have to unwind over time. A long time. And it accumulates believe it or not. So tomorrow morning, if you start, it's going to be a little weird. You're going to be kind of stressed out, so weird. And then the next morning, it'll get easier, and the next morning, get easier. And then your morning time may expand. You'll start waking up earlier. What's interesting about the morning ritual or bringing in that quiet time with yourself is that it starts to proliferate into your schedule. You start finding yourself at peace more when you get to work. And then you kind of lose it. It's like that sense of being on vacation, and then you get to the end of it and you sort of lose it and you start worrying again. That space of the morning ritual or taking time to be holy starts to make you move slower. The morning starts to move and bleed into and proliferate into your complex life. So you learn how to internally have a slower pace. Externally, it can be moving like this, and it's fine. But internally, you sort of feel like you are slowing down. You're not up here choking yourself. You kind of take lower breaths. You don't walk as fast. And where I started noticing how my morning routine sort of bled into my morning, I stopped watching television whilst I was eating. I just decided to eat, and I realized, oh, this is really nice. I had forgotten how to taste. So I brought myself down to the rudiment of taste. That was it. Just taste. And I was like, I would eat oatmeal with berries. And I was like, oh, this is good. Smelling your coffee will awaken your sense of smell too. So this is reintroducing yourself to the primitive nature of the senses. And if the senses begin to fill, just sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste, life becomes more filling. It's not as urgent if the senses smell. That helps you unwind, right? And to touch things in the morning, that sort of thing. It's what I would call coming to your senses. That's what this is about. Going back to the foundations. So I had music students that would come to me, and they wanted to play the organ, and they had some basic rudiment knowledge, and they just wanted to play loud and fast. I was like, no, we got to get back to the basics. You have to learn the techniques. You have to learn how to play just this little thing, dee 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 dee, just the etudes, just the small little exercises, and remain relaxed as you do it. And then what we'll do is we'll gradually add complexity to your study of the instrument, in so much that you can maintain that relaxation. And so then we'll add some variables to your music lessons. We'll start adding more challenge, and you'll always fall back on the ease. Okay, you put too much effort into that, so let's come back to the let's come back to the ease. So you have to work your way up to a complex life. But you got to go to the morning and give yourself 10 minutes to unwind. And that will move into the complexity. The slow pace and the simplicity and the serenity will begin to proliferate into the complex life. And guess what happens? As you become slower paced, the stuff on the outside, all this complexification, begins to strangely go away. Opportunities where you can focus come to you. You may build up the courage to quit your job, move out of the place you're in. It'll afford you more opportunities to be quiet. So it starts with a tiny little morning ritual, and it grows into your day. And as that simplicity grows into your day becomes simple. So the outside takes on the quality of this inner quiet that you've learned. And so a new life forms. So it's like learning an instrument. It's the only way I can kind of explain this to you. You build in the ease
into complexity the other way around. Complexity grew over you, and that's why you're feeling overwhelmed. Now you're going to take the simplicity and the slowness and build it into the complexity now that you're more disciplined. Because you always have that coping mechanism that starts in the morning. Oh, I'm supposed to feel at ease. That's my coping mechanism. So every time a new variable is introduced, I'll fall back on that morning ritual, you see. The last thing you want to do with a music student is put them in front of Carnegie Hall before they haven't even learned how to play in front of the teacher yet. My students would freak out just to play in front of me. And then when I put them in front of an audience, they freak out even more. So the variables were too overwhelming. They could not maintain that sense of comportment and poise that we at least tried to get into the lessons. I tried to get them to make themselves feel comfortable with me. So what you're trying to do is make yourself comfortable in a complex environment. But in order to do that, you have to go back to the basics and then build in the ease. And if you watch musicians who do this wacky virtuosic music, like these sopranos that sing, oh, they make it look like it's a piece of cake. That's because they started off with do, mi, so, mi, do, just very basic things, and then built the ease into the complex music. And ice skating is the same way. You know, you look at professional ice skaters and they're doing all these complex moves, but internally they are completely gone. Just, you don't even recognize the individual anymore. It's like that show, it's like that movie, Billy Elliot. They ask him, Billy, how do you feel when you dance? And he says, I don't know, I just disappear. So you teach yourself to disappear, that no one's watching, right? A lot of people have stage fright, and this is about getting rid of the inhibitions. In order to do that, start off small, do little things in the morning. You know, we always think somebody's watching, there's another thing coming, and too much, you're too wound up. The whole body is like this, and we've got to give ourselves a chance for the body to unwind, and the body unwinds and the mind unwinds on its own. We have to put some time into our schedule to make this happen, to heal. You are trying to heal from a conditioned state. And the only way that you can do that is to give it time, give that wound up coil time to open. You know this if you've had a dog. If they're chasing a squirrel, or if they're in that attack mode, they can't hear you yelling at them. You can tug on the leash and whop them over the head. They can't feel it. The amygdala has taken over. They're gone. So you're learning how to allow the creative mind to take precedent over the animalistic, aggressive brain. You got to practice. And you'll be able to speak in front of 10,000 people and be yourself. You'll be able to have a YouTube channel. You'll be able to start a business and not freak out every time there's an extra layer of complexity that's added onto you. That's why things start off small. You start off a business, it's all going to start off small. Just a few transactions, one client. That's so that you can handle the building complexity. If you've already found yourself in a complex environment and you were not ready, it's time to go back to the basics. And it starts with that morning routine. I hope that this has helped you. There'll be more videos like this to sort of help you understand the importance of unwinding and being in that spacious state so that your creative mind will be the leader, not your frenetic mind. My name is Ryan Hebert. I hope you enjoyed these insights. Please check out my blog. It's called mymorningmotivator.com.